FBI CIA agents of Reddit, what is something that you can tell us without killing us? I worked with the Australian Federal Police with the Spider Squad doing computer stuff for them in regards to pedis and finding trafficking victims. It is the most heartbreaking work, but when you get them, the office looked like NASA after a Mars landing. Edit left 3 and bit years ago, but do get called up to lend a hand every now and then. Of course they have something called Spider Squad in Australia. Geez. Also known as Team Mortine for those pesky rock spiders that hang out on the web. I was an analyst, not an agent officer. 85% of all classified material is classified because of how it was collected, not because it is juicy useful. Yes, you boss and correctional officer workers said that shit about you. I heard just 2 days ago that there is a saying in the government no one ever got fired for classifying a document. Hence there is huge excess secrecy. This is just a matter of better safe than sorry. Usually it is initially classified by the first party to touch it, usually a lower ranked individual. The easiest thing to do as the lower rank is to pass the buck. It will be up to the upper ranks to lower classification if necessary. There is also being able to take a bunch of more seemingly benign pieces of information to deduce very important information. My dad worked for GCHQ in the 80s doing voice recognition, and he cannot say anything more for a decade more. The way they can recognize you by Siri Google today was being used in the 80s. Just a bit slower. Not entirely related, but I've always had a theory that the government is years, maybe decades, ahead in technology than the general public, and they control our technological advances as well too, so the wrong person or country doesn't get ahead and becomes a threat. My dad had a top secret security clearance. One of the few things he ever said was whatever the latest technology is that you can buy, the government is 5 years ahead. The government knows how to block calls telling me I won a free trip from Shady Resorts Incorporated, and they refuse to share. Those bastards. Somewhat unrelated, but my great uncle was a FBI agent. Every time we would ask him if he had any interesting stories, but he would say he was sworn to secrecy. After 10 years of hearing this, my sister asked really, and he responded with no. I just don't remember anything interesting happening. Girl's dad said his coolest memory as a CIA agent was New Year's Eve in Moscow, 1987. It was 39 degrees below zero with zero wind. My high school girlfriend worked for the National Reconnaissance Office after college. At the time, they were responsible for analyzing the nation's spy satellite photos. She told me 2 things. 1, there is a special garbage chute for classified materials. It is in the hallway. When you are new, as a hazing ritual, they tell you have to shout your badge number down the chute before throwing in any materials. This is hilarious. 2, she would not tell me anything about the resolution quality of the spy photos. Of course. But she did let it slip that, because Russian sailors will sunbathe nude on the decks of their submarines in the Black Sea, several women in the office would pin those photos up in their cubicles as cheesecake beefcake photos. So a few decades ago, US spy photos could resolve Russian penis. Did they crunch the numbers to better understand size of the Russian cocks, the minute, maximum, and potential for growth? Mr. President, we must not allow a cockshaft gap. If there is a gap, you gotta stuff it till it's tight again. Met an old, retired CIA spook at a wedding reception. Spitting image of Cole Sanders. He was amazing. So I asked him, I do not want you to tell me anything you cannot, but I would love to know, when Kennedy got killed, what was the talk around the water cooler in the office? He did not halt or pause to think. Hell, we all thought Johnson did it. Not an FBI or CIA officer here, but my sister is a district attorney, and over the years she has prosecuted a number of animal cruelty cases. This led to her having an ongoing partnership with the FBI for the last several years. It turns out the FBI started tracking animal abuse cases about 10-15 years ago due to the incredibly high correlation between abusing animals when you are young and becoming a serial violent offender as an adult. Netflix getting in on that too about a year ago. We are all told never to use sites like this, and social media in general is pretty much a no-go. I'm telling you, lines kill us all, not if we do not comment. My dad worked for the government. And he told me that anytime he had a meaningful interaction with someone who wasn't American, i.e. going over to my friend's house for Lunar New Year or going on vacation to Canada, he had to report it all. And if he saw anything suspicious, went through a clearance upgrade and got asked about a couple of people that I know through friends who I didn't include on my paperwork, and if I knew their background. It is the nature of how they process the contacts you listed. They pretty much know that you are not going to include people who do not like you and will tell your dirt. So they go to your old house and knock on doors to find people you did not list on your Recap SF86. I said 182. That's a training form, and one I just had to fill out last week, so apparently that number was on my mind. The form you fill out with your life history. They say, do you know Derpifarks? They ask that person questions like, would you trust Derpifarks to hold a position of trust? They end with something like, do you know anyone else Derpifarks was friends with when she lived here? They then repeat the process with that person to find the guy who will say something like, Derpifarks, yeah, I know them. They smoked so much weed in high school I used to get a contact high sitting next to them in BO class. Oh wait, you did not report that drug use on your SF 182. Clearance denied. The deal is, if you stole a pack of gum when you were 5, this is an exaggeration. It would not be reportable based on the time frame. Just report it. As soon as they uncover something you did not report, your integrity comes into question and you probably will not get that clearance. Source: went into the Marines at age 19 and have worked for the duty in some capacity ever since 23 years and counting. So much this. I was no angel as a youth, but fully disclosing my youthful indiscretions went a very long way in my favor during the process. If you go through the FBI interview process, it takes a while. Chances are you are going to have to spend some time working on crimes against children, which is really tough and most people do not want to do it. Yeah, I heard a story here on Reddit about how somebody was involved in a case against a predator, and he had to go through every image on his hard drive to flag anything that was child porn. That case drove him out of the industry. I cannot even imagine. I read an article once about how the government has people whose job it is to look at disturbing videos, images from the internet, and seized hard drives, mainly child porn, but also things like executions, to find clues to the location, identity of the people involved, etc. It is an important job, but the burnout rate is astronomical. A lot of them end up with PTSD, addiction issues, and other problems. Like I said, I cannot even imagine. Alcoholism would be nearly guaranteed if that was my job. Seeing things like that changes you. There is a book called Moscow Rules. It was written by 2 CIA people, all about, well, disguise. The CIA had all these agents in Russia, but the Russians were insane about following literally every single American in Russia, 24/7 looking for spies. So a huge part of their job was trying to shake off the KGB. They had crazy quick change disguises, all sorts of stuff. The movie Argo was based on one of the writers somewhat. I negotiated huge deals with the Russian government. I was tailed 24/7. One time I did not like the room the hotel gave me. I knew it faced the noisy side BC. I stayed there all the time, and instead of just giving me a new room, it was a 90-minute wait while they bugged a new room for me. Twice I had bizarro run-ins with very pushy, very hot women who allegedly wanted to duck me so bad. Even if I was straight, hot in Russia is a mix between a Bratz doll and a hooker. So no thanks. Edit spelling. Same in China. You only go with blank phones and every now and then your phone will do this little glitch as if it is being accessed. I do not know if I'm allowed to say it, but a mentor who definitely was not supposed to tell me used to be a white hat for the FBI. Apparently, all he did was search for pedophiles by tracking child pornography. He said he did not stay for very long because it was messing with his mentality. Edit if you guys were wondering. He left to join the Navy, became a nukem, but they pulled him out of the program because of his cybersecurity skills, and before I left our command, he was helping RCMC connecting his computer to a projector. Sorry to put you on the spotlight, M1. An ex-company man once told me Get Smart was more accurate than James Bond. Pretty sure being a famous spy is a sign things are not going well. I watched Daniel Craig Bond films recently, and that's what stood out to me. Just how many people, especially terrorists, knew Bond by name and appearance. Does not speak well for the 00 program. That's because 007 is not a spy. He is an assassin and a troublemaker. He kills people and ducks shit up. Worked with a woman who was former NSA. We would always beg her to tell us shit, but she never did. The one thing she did say, though, was that during training they show them a video of a bunch of things they have found out about and stopped. She said she hardly slept for 2 weeks after watching that. I have a relative that retired from the NSA a few years ago. She has talked about a few things in generalities. Nothing specific. Among them, you will see things that entirely change your view of the world. People go in there all the time with lofty goals of changing things, and within months those goals are mostly gone. Still, if you want to change things, you work for the agency. If you just want to make money, you work for a contractor. No one cares what contractors have to say. Most people that stay long enough will do it or encounter terrorism. Many people transfer out after a few months, and the average stay is 2 years because of the visuals. Those who stick around for a long time often change for the worse, and many struggle with mental illnesses, become alcoholics, get divorced, and generally lead miserable lives with their work their only reason for continuing. Alcoholism in general is rife at the agency. When you cannot speak to anyone outside the agency about your work, it becomes nearly impossible to confide in anyone close to you. Even if you have close work friends or family, you have to be careful what you say, because not everyone is read into every program. Two people can sit next to each other in the same office, working on the same subject for months, and never talk about it with each other, even though they're close friends outside the agency. So people turn to the bottle. Her husband worked for a different government agency and also had a top secret C clearance. But she couldn't he talk about her work with him, nor could he with her. But didn't he involve the intelligence community? The agency employs psychiatrists who are cleared to be read into almost any program. Going to them, though, is often seen as a mark of shame among other agency employees, so they are not used nearly as often as they should be. She told me most of these things while trying to recruit me. She believed that I should go in knowing what to expect. I eventually declined to apply. That is really a shame that the stigma is still there for psychological help. Are we still too proud to acknowledge that seeing the kind of shit they do has a serious toll on their mental health? Yes. Same thing in the military. Operation Ivy Bells was a plan to tap Soviet communication lines. The cover story they used was that they had divers diving down to recover fragments of a new Soviet supersonic anti-ship missile. The communication line tap was a failure due to a spy. However, the dive team successfully recovered all fragments of the missiles from the Soviet weapons tests. The US was able to reverse engineer one and subsequently learned they were radar guided, only in the assumed eye guidance did not exist. Minor clarification. The tap was successful, and recordings were recovered by dive teams over many months. The tap was ultimately discovered by the Soviets because of information provided to them by Ronald Pelton, the spy you mentioned. The book Red November has a pretty good write-up on the Ivy Bell missions. My aunt has been an FBI agent for 25 years. The only thing I know about her job is that she is an office administrator. But her information went public somehow when she was part of the team that investigated the Mandalay Bay shooting in Las Vegas. Someone found the name and address of most of the agents that worked that scene and put it up online. Not sure why. She also took me and my family on a tour of the Las Vegas FBI headquarters about 15 years ago. One thing interesting that I remember about the building is that all the doors were floor-to-ceiling 9-foot doors. Thought that was weird. Brian Bendis, creator of Miles Morales, author of House of M, etc., has a story about doing a talk at GBCI at Langley and being told to wait in a break room, not allowed to have his laptop, phone, his own notebook or pen, but was supplied with a notebook when he walked and that would be reviewed when he left. A young analyst walks in for coffee, sees him sitting there, recognized him as famous comic book author Brian Michael Bendis, and starts to react like a fan. He then pauses, starts sweating, and quietly asks Bendis if this is a test of some kind. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.